The Life Sciences DNA podcast is sponsored by Agilicium Labs, a collaborative space where Agilicium works with its clients to co-develop and incubate POCs, products, and solutions. To learn how Agilicium Labs can use the power of its generative AI for life sciences analytics, visit them at labs.agilicium.com. Sri, we've got Manesh Naidu on the show today. Who is Manesh?
Manesh is a seasoned commercial leader in the pharmaceutical industry who has helped bring important therapies to patients across several major companies. He's now Chief Commercial Officer at Pharma, where he oversees how their medicines reach patients, providers, and payers, and how the company positions itself for its next phase of growth.
And what is Pharma?
Pharma is a specialty pharmaceutical company best known for its work in ADHD, with medication built on a proprietary drug delivery technology. They have carved out a niche taking complex formulation science and turning it into practical, patient-friendly medicines that fit better into real lives. They are one of the few companies that have an extended release liquid formulation capability.
So Manesh is from the commercial side. What are you hoping to hear from him today?
Manesh is really an experienced commercial leader, and what I'm wanting to hear from him today is how is AI helping him in a small pharma really do all the things which he was doing when he was in big pharma? I think from a commercial organization perspective, really making his field force effective, making sure that he is taking care of commercial compliance, looking at contracts and rebates. These are all very critical use cases, and I'm hoping to hear from him on how he's having a very practical approach to deploying AI in his organization.
Before we begin, I want to remind our audience that they can stay up on the latest episodes of Life Sciences DNA by hitting the subscribe button. If you enjoy the content, be sure to hit the like button. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. And don't forget to listen to us on the go by downloading an audio-only version of the show from your preferred podcast platform. With that, let's welcome Manesh to the show.
Manesh, it's great to have you at the podcast Life Sciences DNA. Really wanted to get your perspective on your journey before you got this role. Maybe give a good background on your journey to this particular engagement, as well as your journey around AI and implementing that.
Thank you, Srivatsan. This is great. I'd love to chat with you under any circumstance, even when it's casual. So to do it here is exciting. So I've been in analytics and technology for a little while now. Mostly in as you know, in pharma, and it started all the way back at when I was at Pfizer. I started at McKinsey, of course, but it was a different role. From Pfizer to Novartis, and then I was with a company called Icaria that was bought by Mallinckrodt, and so that's my journey. I'm now at a much smaller company called Pharma, and I'm playing the Chief Commercial Officer role. Hopefully, doing it well also, but that's my journey of where I got to where I am right now. And AI is super exciting because a lot of stuff that in a small company that we are resource constrained to do can be done so much more easily right now. And that's the promise. And hopefully that we can talk a little bit more about how it's going and what we're working on even now.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I mean, given your strong background in pharma and commercial, I'd love to explore kind of the use cases you're deploying. And it's really fortuitous that you're in a smaller company, but now you have this big power of AI to help down this journey. So tell me, in commercial, how are you looking at AI and AI adoption? Which areas are most impacted?
The first thing that we're working on is analytics and the Salesforce. Those are the two big areas that we are kind of looking into. One of the things that's moving faster than I expected also is actually looking at contracts and making sure that contract compliance and checking of rebate compliance when we get the data files. That's an area that we are also kind of looking at. We're working with a with a company that's got a promising solution. So we're going to try and just try it out and put it in place. So there's just so much happening all of a sudden, like everything everywhere all at once kind of story. But on the analytics side, for example, we're thinking of what's the optimal field force orientation um, right now in our current field force size. If we expand, what it would look like, and normally we hire a consulting firm to do that. Quite honestly, it's just too much to take on. It's rare that you get to do it, and for a small company like ours, we definitely wouldn't have the bandwidth. But with AI, we can actually run scenarios of what that would look like so easily, and that's one of the use cases that we're kind of testing out that we wouldn't have been able to do internally at all before. We're also doing some more standard ones, like adding an AI layer on our CRM, things like that.
So many both very good use cases. But before I jump into the use case, tell me, how do you prioritize where you want to deploy AI first? You have, as you said, a smorgasbord of opportunities, and you pick these areas. Is it opportunistic? Is it strategic? Are you going top down? Is it ROI driven? It'll be great to really understand how you select a use case, and then I want to definitely deep dive into these two use cases, which are really fascinating.
How we pick them is really based on what's causing us the most pain at this particular point. So it's where the business need is that we have not been able to solve for.
It's very appropriate that you first identify a business need and a target. In these two, talk a little bit about, Salesforce sizing has been done, as you know, time immemorial in the old-fashioned way. You go and do that with, certain types of maps and do the territory. So tell me, where is AI's role, and how did you stumble upon what the solution should be? And
Yeah, so we're using a purely analytical approach. We're not doing routing as of now, although that's, from what I understand, it's actually very doable also. But what we're looking at was what's the appropriate size and roughly adjacent zip codes, and we're doing a zip to ter map, if you will. And what we're doing is we're defining what the opportunity is in each zip code, and then we are asking AI to look at what the appropriate mix and matches are of the zip codes to, and honestly, we're just using an off the shelf AI model to do that right now. I'm talking about it because it's like literally we're in the middle of doing this,
okay.
so we haven't finished yet.
No, fantastic. And as you're going through this journey, what kind of roadblocks are you finding out? Is it AI is hallucinating, or data verification is not there? The data infrastructure is not good.
Yeah, we've not checked on hallucinations just yet, so that's a watch out that we have to repeat. What we're finding is the most useful thing is to be able to do some quick iterations when we change certain things, like in terms of a lot of the right now what we're doing at the back end is trying to figure out what's the right question. So what's the right resource allocation strategy? And as we fiddle through that, we don't have to get it right the first time. And I think that's the biggest advantage, because the resource allocated to actually doing the analysis was so large, you felt compelled to get it right the first time before. Now we're just trying stuff, like literally throwing things at the wall and seeing if it makes sense, if it sticks and makes sense. And that's where we are at right now.
And what kind of a team configuration, Manish, you're doing? Because this requires deep domain knowledge, right? That's your business user knowledge on what happens, and of course the technology knowledge to bring it together.
It's literally the head of sales, the head of analytics, and me working together on this to define what we're looking for.
And is that a large team to deploy this work, or not? Because
No,
with AI,
we're a small field force team, so no.
perfect. So you're playing it out with different scenarios and then picking the right one. And
I took this as an example of something that's easy to play around with, and I don't know where it's going to end up, but it's the kind of stuff that to me is exciting, because if we can do this, then that really is a proof of concept that we can kind of deploy resources or solve problems that we didn't have resources to solve that easily before.
No, that's a very good approach to how you want to be practical about AI, right? You're picking problems which previously could have been only solved with a large consulting company or a large analytics project and multiple different models to now being able to do it with three folks together. Is that a resistance from the business side, from a head of sales or analytics, or there's lots of strong collaboration? How's this working out?
No, it's we don't have the luxury of doing that. I don't think. No, we're there's no resistance. We haven't even thought about resistance at this point because we've been we've grown a little organically, and we've also grown our product base from 3 to 5, and have slightly different customer targets right now than we had when the territories were drawn up the last time. And so it's due for a change. It's due for an optimization and realignment. And we are also planning for potential growth next year. And so that's the other piece that we have to think about now.
And is that a strong need for an ROI for you? Your CEO is asking, or this is still like a experimentation, and it's not costing you too much?
Right now it's still experimentation, but the case for an ROI, just for us, should be fairly simple. If you have another product, you can imagine 6 products in the bag, or is not going to be, or 5 plus, launching a new indication is not going to be that viable with the field force that's designed for 3 products.
Of course. So just the optimization of that across your different product lines would justify what you're trying to do over here. So let's go to the other use case. You started to build AI on top of your CRM. Walk me through that. Was that inbuilt from the CRM and you just use the capabilities there? Was it something, as you said, you had a use case?
We're using a smaller CRM, so it's not the industry standard right now, but they're fairly popular in some parts of the world, and they have Copilot built in, and we're leveraging that to essentially run some basic data scraping, if you will, from our own data sets. So helping the reps ask natural language questions and pull some data for them more effectively, but also to start to suggest some next best actions, including some routing suggestions, for example. One of the specific things that we're looking at when you're entering a call, after you finished a call, once you're entering the call notes, and right now we have drop downs. I'll get to that in a second. We're even going to suggest if there's other customers in the area that they could be calling on, as a reminder that they haven't seen them in a while, things like that. So some of these are built-in questions that we have the AI kind of like know to check for. So it's prompted based on thinking that we have done internally, but it'll be run automatically in the background through the system. Like I said, one of the things is we don't have open notes, and another thing that we're looking at is, can we allow open note taking but run an AI engine on top of that to check for compliance? So we would have to train it. So we're thinking through what that training would look like. We're talking to a company that's built a training set already on the regulations and rules in our industry.
Oh, that's fascinating. I mean, you've literally taken a CRM and built an next best action very quickly using a small Copilot interface. Was it how do you go about the process? Was that a semantic layer you had to build in terms of the type of questions the reps would ask? Was that rep training? Or did you consolidate a lot of the questions from them on the way they are? Walk me through the process. How easy was it to deploy something like that?
Yeah. So what we started out with was gathering use cases of what questions the reps are looking for. So we basically had them run through what their calls are. Obviously, we picked a select number of people who are high users of the data, and we just had them walk through A lot of it is just getting the average or the people below average up to the better, more proficient users of the system. If we can do that, we probably improve our ability to use the data significantly on the whole, right? If we can get everyone below average to average, that helps a lot right there. And so that's the goal. So that's where we started from, just pulling best practices and training the AI to pull that data.
And did you go off the shelf product, or did you do it much like Copilot? So you're using large LLMs to help you through that?
It's off the shelf for the CRM. The CRM has it
Okay.
built in.
And so all you had to do was to literally train them in the type of questions and kind of things which the reps would naturally ask, and then make sure that it's working in the background for all reps. As you said, take the below average to make them average. No, fantastic. See, it seems like all the past journey of what you've done with legacy systems, you're now applying it in a very rapid manner in a small setup, but doing, all the things which you would do in a big infrastructure. So, walk me through, what does 2026 look like? What are exciting things that you need to scale, and where do you think AI can play a big part in that journey?
Yeah, from little to small, and small things to somewhat bigger things, right? So one of the small pain points that my reps have is if they do a lunch and learn, the sign-in sheet has to be uploaded into our expense tracking system so we can submit it for Sunshine Night reporting, and it is a very painful manual process. And just being able to scan that, uh, I hate to say OCR is AI, but really combining all these different things into a easy to use interface where you scan it, you send it off, and it looks for those people and pre-populates it. So the reps still have to check it and sign off on it. But that's one thing I'm excited. I think that should be fairly doable. So that's one we are working on right now. And another one, which is slightly more, is different than what we've looked at, because this is not something that we did that much in the past. But allowing for open field note taking in the CRM is something I'm excited about, because previously it was too onerous, particularly for a company like ours, to be able to do, because you'd have to monitor what people are writing in the CRM. If you can put a semantic layer on top of it that's trained on all the regulations and prior art in terms of the legal precedents, you can actually get a pretty good read on things that are okay, things that are absolutely not okay, and only the in-between stuff can get flagged for human review. So I'm excited about being able to do that, because it's somewhat constraining to not have notes to lean on from your prior conversations with customers. And that's a big value of CRM systems that we don't have in pharma.
It's fascinating, right? Previously, we had people who took notes. Then we put strong CRM to structure that they cannot write that. And now you're saying, let's go back to the way people should be, which is very natural. And we'll use AI to categorize and bring it all together, but also be very compliant. So
Yes. And now you have best of both, right? Because of that.
and as you start to put this thing together as a CCO, how's your partnership with? Are ideas coming from the business and then IT implements it, or is it a joint implementation effort? Walk me through the process, because a lot of people are facing this challenge around business ideas and IT ideas, and how do you bring that together from a change perspective?
We have a very small team, so that helps speed up. But we have started by just focusing on the pain points that we currently have in the business. What are we trying to do that we're not able to do? By doing that first, we are able to kind of prioritize pretty easily. But to be honest, a lot of the ideas that we are coming from vendors we talk to, because people are looking to solve these problems and talking to a lot of their customers. And so we get to see how people are implementing it by talking to vendors who are bringing us potential solutions.
Manish, that's fascinating approach, right? So there was this classic place where people build custom, when I say small LLMs, or custom implementations around large LLMs, and I kind of where you're going is saying, hey, let me bring and fit for purpose vendors for fit for purpose problems. and bringing it together. Is that a conscious choice from a build versus partner or build versus implement what's out there in the market? Walk me through that decision because previously Pharma used to build everything from scratch.
Yeah, we don't have the scale to build. So that's really out of the question for us. In fact, without AI, we wouldn't even have the scale to buy probably. Um, but it's really reduced for small companies. It's really reduced the barriers for what we can do.
One of the problems as you go in with each of these fit for purpose vendor solutions, how do you bring that all together? Because you may have something for the CRM, and then you go into contracts, and that has a different LLM train, and then you go to something else, and that has. Um, are you thinking there's an agentic orchestration to be done, or how do you get these different disparate systems to talk to each other?
We haven't thought about orchestrating the agents to work together yet. So right now they're solving defined problems for us, business problems, and so they're all separate. So when we get this, we're working on this, but we're implementing a system to review the contract compliance when we have managed care contracts, and that system is really going to be isolated and not talking to any other system. Could it be talking to the system that does, for example, our trade kind of inventory monitoring? Absolutely, could. And you can connect that to the data that comes from commercial and Medicaid separately. But right now we're looking primarily at commercial contract compliance.
It makes sense because where you're going as a small company, what you're saying is, hey, I have a defined problem. Let me find a defined solution and solve for that and get the benefits out of it. Later on, you can think about, do I orchestrate it? Do I get connectivity going? And that's the different ways to doing it. But I think it's a smart way to solve as many different functional problems you can. The only downside to that is vendor spend, right? So that's if you contract with each one individually, then their cost and ongoing implementation costs could be higher. But that's for another year problem, right? It's not a current problem.
The ROIs are so clear, though. At this point, we don't quite care about that because it's so beneficial for us to put these systems in place. But yeah, we'll have to think about that soon enough. We will have a very balkanized solution set.
But it also gives you the flexibility because you can swap it out when things get better, and you can solve for that problem in a much better way. The technology is changing so fast that you can you're getting the flexibility. Before, you had to make the commitment for a long term. Right now, you don't need to do it. You're solving problems, and if things are better, then you can swap things in and out, but while not changing the whole core infrastructure.
And when we have the luxury of building, we'll probably build an agent to oversee the other agents anyway. So
that makes sense. So Manish, as you look into as a chief commercial officer in the next 12, 24 months, where do you see all of this thing going? How do you see these agents or these fit for purpose solutions helping you, and then helping you scale? So walk me through your thinking, what happens in the next 12, 24 months?
that's a tough question for me because we're being very opportunistic right now, just because the opportunities are so large. To stretch an analogy, we're picking up diamonds on the beach, and we haven't really thought about the jewelry that we're going to craft with this, or how many we'll be able to carry next year. It's changing so fast. Literally from month to month, I'm hearing different ideas, better ideas from people that we speak to, that we can barely keep up with just doing the things that we need right now that we can solve so quickly.
So let me. So you have many vendors come and pitch to you. What is your criteria? Because 6 people claim that they're going to solve world's problem, and everything. How do you make sure that you separate the wheat from the chaff? Making sure that you're getting the best solution for yourself. Walk me through the decision process.
For the most part, we are relying on people who we already have a relationship with. Um, that said, we are talking to the contract compliance piece, for example, is someone that we it was actually a cold call. It just happened to be talking about a problem that we had that we didn't know how to go about solving, and they had a good solution. We vetted it, and it's costs attractive enough that we're just going to go ahead and try it because there's low risk of ancillary kind of damage or effects from like not act because it's just doing stuff that we just can't do. So there's mostly upside to that kind of stuff. So that's why we are going with someone we don't have any relationship with. A lot of what we're doing is keeping the IT team busy in looking at all the ideas that we are coming up with. One that I just got to today, the questions that they have for a new tool that I had them evaluate was, and I haven't even read it actually. It's a tool to help sales rep practice making calls with a virtual doctor. So we train the system with all of our materials and of all of our MLR rules and guidance documents, and then the idea is that it plays a physician. The AI system plays a physician and has a dialogue, a voice to voice dialogue with a rep to help them practice making a call.
Training is a fascinating use case. I've seen that, and I actually rep training and improving rep training. As you said, take the below average rep to average to performing above average is a huge lift for you in terms of sales. So there's a lot of good ROI and return, and there are a few other companies which are there in the marketplace.
We spoke to 3 or 4 of them, and they all offer about the right solution. So we're at the point of saying, okay, what are the questions that we would want to ask to make sure that they can actually have a system that's a learning system, not just for training, but actually a system that can learn on the fly as we go.
So this is a defense question. As your IT starts to evaluate each of these vendors, what is the biggest risk you're trying to protect? Is it that they're training on your data? Is it compliance? Is it hallucination? Is it transparency? Is it cyber? What is your biggest thing? Like check the box where, hey, if it doesn't do this, then I'm not going to use the system.
So our biggest hurdle right now is the fact that the AI systems are seeing our proprietary data. I'm not fully comfortable, and because the IT team is not fully comfortable that we have kind of solved that yet. That's another value of like doing little chunks of it, because we only do what we're comfortable with in that and isolate it and monitor it very carefully to see that the risk is mitigated, so that our access to our proprietary data is our biggest concern.
And how do you protect that? Or is it contractual? Are these vendors telling you that they won't train in your data because they're, is it containerized to your infrastructure?
It's a combination of it's just a low risk if it does leak, and containerizing it within our instance.
Okay. Makes sense. Just kind of protecting yourself.
But the part that although we've got assurances, contractual assurances that they're not training on the data, we have no way of knowing that, quite honestly.
That's a very fair risk. Is there other risks in terms of, say, a hallucination or model drift and stuff like that?
We've not thought about model drift. We have not really evaluated hallucinations because that is a serious consideration for the CRM piece. But once it's ready, we're going to just test it and keep testing it, I think, to make sure that it's giving us what we expect for known questions with known answers, right? So we can test on that. But again, that's also the least likely area where these systems are likely to hallucinate. So I don't know if that's a good test. Short of pitting one to test the other, I don't know how. It's an area I think I need to learn a little bit more about.
Yeah, no, the champion challenger model, several of us have used that, where you use one LLM to pit against the other or train one as the doer and the other as the auditor. Those are all good problems to have as you start to use this to make an impact. Manish, I know this has been a fascinating conversation and we can continue to have this for a long, long time, but it seems like you've kind of created a playbook, right? Like as a small pharma, as you said, you're able to bring in the tools and approaches which you had access to when you were part of a big pharma. You're bringing in the not just the thought leadership on how to do this, but the tools and technologies to make it happen. And actually, having a small team is actually giving you easier access to change, because when I talk to big pharma and other people, they have a big change management challenge while you're three people getting together, solving problems and making it happen. So it seems like an exciting journey. Any last words for our podcast users who are going down this journey? What advice would you like to give them, and saying what should they do and what should they not do in this AI journey?
I'm sure there's a lot of things we're doing that shouldn't be done. So I'm not the best person to give that advice. But what I'll say is our approach has been to jump enthusiastically into the shallow end of the pool, minimize the risk, keep it to a containable kind of problem, and that by definition will mitigate any the likely downsides of moving too fast, because you won't be breaking anything big or important, and things like double checking, training, giving suggestions, not directions. Those are the kind of ways in which we are mitigating the risk of moving quickly or faster than say someone with more at stake, or doing it in places where there's more at stake would do. So that's our approach. Again, we could change on a dime should we learn that there's more risks that we're taking on. And that's honestly the biggest thing. The one thing that we didn't talk about is compliance risk. And so we do need to be careful about that. And so the legal is always a partner in this as much as IT is, I think.
No, you're spot on. No, this has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much, Manish, for your time, and really appreciate you jumping and having a wonderful conversation on how to transform commercial from a pharma perspective. Thank you.
This is lovely. Thank you, Srivatsan.
Well, it's interesting to hear, Manesh. What did you think, Sri?
I think Manish is a very practical implementation person. He started to pick use cases which really are big pain points for him, and he's solving for it in a very practical manner.
We talk a lot about implementing AI on the research and development side, and the implementation challenges and the really change management that goes with that. Is there something easier from implementing it on the commercial side?
I don't think it's easier. Commercial also has compliance requirements. But what I think Manish has been doing is a very practical approach to picking the use case, getting the right teams in play to understand and ideate on what the solution is, picking a set of vendors who can actually solve for that use case, and then deploying them. As you'll start to look at commercial, there's a whole smorgasbord of use cases which you can deploy. And he's going about picking the ones which are most problematic for them, and then solving for it one at a time.
You were talking about the cost of using multiple vendors and the kind of balkanized approach that he's working with right now. He said ROI is so clear right now, it's not a problem. Is that surprising to hear that there's clear ROI at this point?
I think so. I think he's having a very practical approach to picking a process at a time and getting the ROI specific to that process. And that's a very good way from a change management perspective. If you've got multiple teams to adopt what is good for them rather than trying to make it enterprise good for everybody, he's solving very specific problems pragmatically.
So, when I think about using AI, I'm thinking about the speed in analyzing data on the commercial side, help me find targets and be more targeted in my approach, or help with decision making. It was so interesting to me hear how they're using it to train reps, particularly where the AI plays a doctor in a conversation. Is that something that people don't appreciate, the potential to use AI as a sales training tool?
Yeah, AI is a fantastic buddy to train you, and it can provide you a lot of different scenarios. I mean, we noticed that in the interview process, you can use AI to train you better to prepare for yourself for the interview. It's a similar construct. Training will be completely revolutionized with the way AI can come on. Pedantic one way of training is going to go away into a much more of an interactive process, and that is going to make sure that you're learning better, retaining better, and being able to apply learning better as you start to go out and do what you're supposed to do in the fields you choose to be in.
Well, it was great to hear new ways that AI is being deployed in this industry. But Sri, thanks as always.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks again to our sponsor, Agilisium Labs. Life Sciences DNA is a bi-monthly podcast produced by the Levine Media Group with production support from Fullview Media. Be sure to follow us on your preferred podcast platform. Music for this podcast is provided courtesy of the Jonah Levine Collective. We'd love to hear from you. Pop us a note at danny@levinemediagroup.com. For Life Sciences DNA, I'm Daniel Levine. Thanks for joining us.